Welcome to Rockingham Community College's Center for Creative Woodworking. My name is Jay Speechens and I'm a woodworking instructor here. Today I have John Holland, furniture maker. John, welcome to the center.
Thanks, good to be with you.
Center for Creative Woodworking offers classes in wood turning and woodworking for woodworkers of all levels of experience, from the complete novice to people that have been woodworking for many years. We're located in downtown Reidsville, right near the farmers market. John, what are we going to be doing today?
Well, today we're going to be making a candle box, and this little box was very useful back in colonial days. This one happens to be made out of pine. I've painted it up with milk paint. Here's one out of mahogany that has a shellac finish on it. And it's got candles in it, like they would have had in the old days.
But this box would be good for a lot of things, from checkers to tools, whatever you can think to put in there.
Yeah, in fact, in this one, which is the one we're going to demonstrate today, I've got some calipers, dividers, some other items for use in woodworking. And today we're going to make this little box out of pine, and we're only going to use nothing but hand tools.
Well, that's great, John. And for your information, John will be teaching a Philadelphia ball and claw carving class this spring. He will be offering this little box project class in the summer and several other classes. So we hope that you'll come out and join us for the class.
The first thing we're going to do is dimension our stock. And this is a 1 by 10, 24 inches long, which means it's 9 1/4 inches wide. And we're going to go to the saw bench. We're going to cross cut this piece in two. And from 1/2, we're going to get 3 3-inch pieces for the 2 sides and the 2 end pieces. The other half's going to consist of the top and the bottom. There's going to be a 3-inch piece left over. So
from this one board, we're going to get all the parts and pieces for the project.
All the parts and pieces with one left over to start on your next box.
That's great.
Let's cut her up.
Take care.
We're going to cross cut this in two, and I guess I need to put my glasses on so I can see the line.
Now, John, I noticed that you stayed right on your line. How much time does it take to learn how to do that?
Well, it takes just some practice, getting in the right angle to the cut, and the saw has to work straight across the line, and if you angle it any at all, it's going to wander away from the line.
So it's basically just a little bit of practice?
Just a little bit of practice.
Okay, that's great.
That's cross-cutting, and so now we're going to take this half, and we're going to rip those 3-inch pieces that I talked about.
So you're using a different saw?
A different saw. This has a different tooth geometry to it, so this is going to rip the board as opposed to cross-cutting the board.
Now, I know a lot of folks probably have their father's or their grandfather's old saw in their basement or in their attic someplace. You're going to be offering a saw tune-up class in the summertime, is that correct?
Yes, we're going to take Grandpa's old saw and tune her up so she cuts just like that.
So it's in large part how well the saw is set up is going to give you is how good of a cut you're going to get.
Yeah, if you are a good sawer and the saw's not properly tuned, it's really difficult to cut to a straight line.
Okay, so that's an important part of this.
Contrarily, if the saw's tuned up right, it's hard not to cut to the line because it tends to track a line.
So be looking forward to that class.
Yeah. Okay, there's all our pieces cut to the proper rough dimensions.
So when you're creating a one-of-a-kind project like this, obviously you laid out the board beforehand to what you were looking for. How much variation are you going to get from one box to the other in terms of?
1/16, 1/8 of an inch.
So negligible. You put 2 boxes side by side, they'd look identical.
They're going to be pretty much the same, yes.
That's great.
Now, to save stock, what we're going to do is rip this 2-inch piece in half and then glue it together. That's going to become our bottom.
Okay, I got you.
Just going to take my finger, mark this.
So basically, John is going to be resawing this board in half thickness-wise so that he'll end up with a thinner board for the bottom.
And we'll glue those 2 pieces together. And the sawing technique's a little different on this. Whereas here you would do your arm back and forth like this. You bring this in closer to your chest, and it's more of a push stroke, because if this gets off the line whatsoever, it's pretty difficult to get it back. So we're going to try to saw this to the line.
So are you keeping your arms in just so that you keep it nice and straight?
Yes.
More control?
Yes.
Okay. I notice you tend to ease up and slow your cut down when you get close to the end of a cut.
Yeah, if you don't, it just kind of busts out and makes a mess. So we got two pieces that are approximately 5/16 of an inch thick, and we're going to joint these two edges, and that's going to become our bottom.
So when this piece is finally put together, how thick will it be?
It'll be 1/4 inch thick.
Okay, so you've got a little room to...
Yeah, a little room to plane flat.
That sounds great.
So let's join these two sides together. So what I'm going to do is put a mark on here like this. This kind of keeps me straight. And I'm going to work on this edge right here just a little bit. So you can tell the tendency in hand planing is to push down to begin with and push down on the other end, which gives you a crown, which has happened right here.
So basically, what John is saying is it's a little heavy still in the middle.
Yeah.
But now it's a lot cleaner from the saw. Yeah. Now, are you concentrating on keeping the edge square so that it's still at 90 degrees? Or?
Well, that's a really good point, because what I'm going to do now really offsets all of that. So I put those two together. That's the way it's supposed to look. So I just fold them in like that.
Okay.
So any discrepancy is going to correct itself.
So if you're off by 1 degree, they're both off by 1 degree?
They're both, and they're going to make a nice tight joint.
Line up square.
Yes. Now this is a shorter plane, and a lot of people like to use a long joiner plane, but I find this little plane right here works super well.
And is that particularly because this is a small project?
A small project, plus the bottom is dead flat.
Gotcha.
So you got two curls coming out there together.
Full width of the board, full length of the cut.
Now that has just a little bit of opening there in the middle, which is what we want, because when we squeeze this together, if you don't have just a little bit of offset there in the middle, the ends might.
So you'd rather have it so that the pressure is pulling it together in the ends?
Yes. So
Great.
when we put pressure here, the whole thing is going to come together tightly.
Great.
So if you grab those clamps, whenever you're making little pieces like this, if you keep marks on there, it really does help when you're assembling things, keeps things straight.
So you lay out and mark your pieces so you don't get confused which part is...
Which part is which, yes. So that looks like that's going to glue up pretty good. So we'll turn these up. And I tend not to put a lot of glue, because the more glue you put on here, the more squeeze out you're going to have. And the more squeeze out you have, the harder it's going to be on that nicely sharpened hand plane.
And you're using just basic yellow carpenter's glue?
Just basic yellow carpenter's glue. There's a little trick to this. When you get your boards ready to tighten up with the clamps, if you just kind of rub them together like this, that distributes the glue, and you don't have nearly as much glue run out. And I hate glue run out because it affects your finishes, it affects your hand tools, and the less glue, and there's too much glue right there. But
so you want to see just a little bit of glue squeezing out the full length, but not running down the street?
Yes. I'll show you what it ought to look like here in just a second. Right there. See that little glue coming out right there? That's what you're looking for.
So you've got little beads of glue going along.
Little beads of glue. See them coming out right there? Too much glue here, but
not bad.
Don't wipe it with your finger, because if you wipe it with your finger, it's just going to make a mess. So we're going to let that set up and dry while we do these other box parts.
So this needs to dry for how long before we can work it?
You know, I've put this back into action after 30 minutes. Typically 3 or 4 hours is probably better.
Good deal.